In this lesson, we're going to talk about basic dimensioning in notes. We're going to talk about the center mark command, how to do linear dimensions, how to do angular dimensions, how to complete radius and diameter dimensions, how to do multi-line text and special characters, and then we're going to talk about layers containing dimensions. We want to make center lines our current layer. If you look up here, it already is, but if it were not, we could actually go ahead and select whichever layer we want, select center lines. We're now going to place center marks on our drawing. To do that, we're going to go into our dimension toolbar, select center marks, and we're going to place a center mark on this small circle. We want to repeat the center mark command, and we're going to use the arc so that it goes all the way through the circle and the arc. Notice how we now have center marks on our curved geometry. Before we add our linear dimensions, we want to change our layer to dimensions. And then I want to select the linear dimension button. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and pick the lower left corner of the front view of the part. Then I'll pick the lower right corner of the front view of the part. And then I'll pull that dimension off about 1/2 of an inch. If I click, you'll notice the dimension is now placed below the part. Adding dimensions is easy with AutoCAD's auto dimensioning and associative dimensioning features. I'm going to repeat the linear dimension command to add the rest of the dimensions to this part. To add the angular dimension, I'm going to use the angular dimension button on the toolbar. I first select one of the lines that I want to dimension an angular dimension through, and then I select a different line. And what's going to happen is it gives me a couple different options here. I have several different quadrants that I can go to on this one. I'm going to want to go ahead and put it right here. And your third click is going to place where your dimension is supposed to be. So I'll pick the third click there, and it will put the 30-degree dimension. To add our radius and diameter dimensions, I'm going to go ahead and select the radius dimension here on the toolbar, and then I want to select the arc right here. Once I do that, my next click is going to place the actual dimension, so I can place that right there, and you'll see that we have a 1 3/4 inch radius on that particular arc. I'm next going to use the diameter dimension to dimension the diameter of this particular circle. So I'll go right here, select that, select the diameter, and then pull this one out so that we can see that we have a 1 3/4 inch diameter circle there. I'll now use those same tools to finish off the rest of these. Notice that my dimension should occur outside of the object. AutoCAD provides two options to create notes. For simple entries, we can use the single line text command. For longer entries, with internal formatting, we can use the multi-line text command. The single line text command, also known as the text command, can be used to enter several lines of text that can be rotated and resized. Each line of text is treated as a separate object in AutoCAD. To end a line and begin another, we press Enter after entering the characters. To end the text command, we press Enter key without entering any characters. You can access the text command by hitting the drop down here. There's single line or multi-line text. We're going to go ahead and do multi-line text for right now. We want to pick a location near the world coordinates of 1, 1.5. So it's asking us to specify first corner. We can go ahead and say 1, 1.5, enter, and you'll see that we have our first corner right there. We want to right click once to bring up the option list, and we want to select height. The height that we want to enter is 0.125. We want to pick a position toward the right and create a rectangle representing roughly the area for the notes. Once I select that, I'm now going to enter in the text of the note that I want in this text box. In this example, we're going to do rounds and fillets with a radius of 1/4. To get out of the text editor, I'm going to go up here to the text editor ribbon panel and say close text editor, and you'll see that I now have a text box that has rounds and fillets with a radius of 1/4 on the bottom. You can add special text characters to the dimensioning text and notes. We can type in special characters during any text command and when entering the dimension text. To do that, I would go ahead and do my text command again. As an example, I'll put one over here. Click that and you will see that I have several different special characters I can use: degrees, plus, minus, diameter, and on, and I can even go in and get other special characters. You'll also see I can create fields and other things. I'm not going to do that at this point, so I'm going to hit escape and get out of that particular text command. Special note on layers containing dimensions. AutoCAD creates several hidden blocks when we create associative dimensions. AutoCAD treats blocks as a special type of object called a named object. Each kind of named object has a symbol table or a dictionary, and each table or dictionary can store multiple named objects. For example, if we create 5 dimension styles, our drawing's dimension style symbol table will have 5 dimension style records. When we create dimensions in AutoCAD, most of the hidden blocks are placed in the same layer where the dimension was first defined. Some of the definitions are placed in the def points layer. When moving dimensions from one layer to another, AutoCAD does not move these definitions. When deleting layers, we cannot delete the current layer, layer 0, XREF dependent layers, or a layer that contains visible or invisible objects. Layers referenced by block definitions along with the def points layer cannot be deleted even if they do not contain visible objects. This creates problems many times when you're trying to clean up your drawings and you find that you can't delete layers that don't have anything on them that you can see. What it ends up being is that you've created definition on that layer with dimensions, and even though there's nothing there, you've changed the dimensions layer, the definition still resides on that layer. To delete layers with hidden blocks, first use the purge command. To do that, we're going to go up to the application menu, and we'll go down here to drawing utilities, and we'll go over to purge. It allows us to remove unused named items such as block definitions and layers from the drawing. Once I select that, I can select blocks, and you'll see the different blocks that we have in here. This will allow us to remove the invisible blocks. We're going to have to remove all visible objects prior to using this command. The empty layer, once this is done, can now be deleted or purged. I'm just going to close that. I'm going to go ahead and go to my zoom extend so I can see everything that I have on my screen, and then I will save my file. So I'll go up here and go to save.